Hello and welcome to my Visual Principles in Educational Video Design presentation. My name is Jessica Young and this is a presentation for Survey of Instructional Technology. There will be three sections in this presentation. First, the importance and benefits of visuals. Second, the principles of multimedia learning. And third, a list of my sources. I would like to begin by talking on the importance of visuals. Visuals are the fastest way to get information into our long-term memory, which means that is going to be the most effective way to remember information quickly. Our brains learn more from visuals, so they make communication faster and more efficient. Visuals will help learners gain understanding more quickly. Visuals also help stir emotion, which helps information be remembered by making important connections in the brain. Additionally, visuals are more motivating than plain text. It is important to remember that a bad visual can do more harm than good, which will be gone into in the section on the principles of multimedia learning. I'd also like to briefly discuss that here. Here are some tips to avoid poor quality visuals by using graphic design principles. Teachers can avoid poor images in their learning materials by considering some basic graphic design techniques, such as scale, color, hierarchy, and space. Scale or size can make different parts of an image look more or less important. The bigger something is, the more important it looks. Scale can be altered to create an image that looks balanced. Color. The colors used in an image can make big difference as to how it is perceived. Choosing warm colors, such as red, yellow, and orange, make images stand out. Cool colors like green, blue, and purple make images more relaxing and subtle. Make sure to check your colors for colorblind accessibility. Hierarchy and space. Where something is placed in an image will cause an association with importance. Information at the top of the image will be considered more important. Space is also important. Things that are closely related should be placed near each other, and vice versa. Anyone can benefit from using visuals in their videos, but who specifically gets the benefit? All learners can benefit, but it is especially helpful for groups like ESL students. The human mind processes visuals 60,000 times faster than words. Pictures will help break down language barriers. A common practice for teaching ESL students is to use picture dictionaries to help students make connections between objects and their English words, because an apple is going to look the same no matter what language you speak, even though the word might be different. Fred R. Barnard is credited with saying a picture is worth 1,000 words when speaking about advertising. The principles of multimedia learning is the second section of this presentation and the most lengthy. Richard Meyer, who was a professor at the University of California, published Cognitive Theory of Multimedia Learning in 2001. There are 12 principles which are derived from three assumptions. The first is the dual channel assumption, which states that people have two channels to process information, one for visual information and the other for auditory or hearing. The limited capacity assumption is that people can only take in so much information at one time. The active processing assumption is that people should learn actively and not passively in order to learn the best. These principles are listed in the box below. The multimedia principle. The multimedia principle reasons that people learn best when the materials provide both words and pictures. Learning is more effective when presented in multiple formats. For example, a textbook will use text alongside an image, such as a visual chart, to reinforce the information. It is important to note that visuals should not be purely decorative, but should help clarify or enhance the text. Some text examples are written text or narration, and some examples of images are graphs, pictures, illustrations, or maps. There can be more, of course, but those are a list of some of the most common. The coherence principle. The coherence principle states that more information will be learned if distracting or irrelevant things are left out. Anything that isn't relevant to the learning goal should be left out so it doesn't take away from the goal. Things like simple diagrams and infographics can be kept, but leave out things like background music and unrelated images. The signaling principle. The signaling principle states that the most important information should be indicated with visible cues. This makes the information easier to find for the learner. Examples are bold text, highlights, underlining, callouts such as the one on the screen, arrows, and bullet points. There's also an example of that on this page. The redundancy principle. The redundancy principle states that information should not be presented in multiple formats at the same time. Presenting the same information in more than one way at the same time becomes redundant and distracts the learner. One tip is to choose to use either graphics or text when someone is speaking. Using both text and graphics can be redundant. Tip 2 is that when using information, avoid using on-screen text as well. Images or graphics would be a better choice for that situation. There are two principles that deal with contiguity, or how things are related in space or time. The spatial contiguity principle states that people learn best when related information is placed close together. Information should be lined up so the connection is obvious, and text shouldn't be separated from images. Text and images should be near each other, and activities should be on the same screen with any other related information. The temporal contiguity principle deals with time. This principle states that people learn best when materials like images and text are presented at the same time. Doing this allows learners to process the information at the same time and make better connections between the learning materials. For example, voiceovers should be timed with visuals, and related text and pictures should be on the same page or screen. The segmenting principle. The segmenting principle states that learning is easier when information is divided into sections. Learners are better able to process the information they are supposed to learn when it is broken down, and they can control the pace at which they are consuming it. One tip is to divide information into sections. Make sure that no one section contains so much information that it becomes overwhelming. Another tip is to ensure that learners can go through lessons, videos, etc. at their own pace. Controls for speed and navigation should be readily available. The pre-training principle states that learning is easier when the learner already understands the fundamentals. Definitions and other important information should be pre-taught before going into the main lesson. For example, there are several steps a teenager has to learn before driving for the first time. Some tips to maintain this principle are to provide an explanation of major concepts before teaching begins, to create a cheat sheet of important definitions, and to make sure learners know how to use any necessary tools beforehand. The modality principle. The modality principle simply states that people learn better from visuals and speaking than they do from visuals and text. Using text is fine, but too much of it can be overwhelming. Limit text and rely more on visuals and narration. The voice principle. The voice principle states that humans learn better when they are hearing another human voice as opposed to a computer-generated one. Use a human narrator, either yourself or a professional, and make sure recordings have good quality and edit them for background noise and other mistakes. The image below provides a summary of Myers' 12 principles of multimedia learning. To review, they are the coherence principle, the signaling principle, the redundancy principle, the spatial contiguity principle, the temporal contiguity principle, the segmenting principle, the pre-training principle, the modality principle, the multimedia principle, the personalization principle, the voice principle, and the image principle. My main source of information was the Learning Institute's Myers 12 Principles of Multimedia Learning, and my media sources were Myers 12 Principles of Multimedia Learning from Jonathan Kinsey and Shannon Page, All other graphics were pulled from the Canva graphics database. Thank you for viewing this presentation, and I hope it helps you understand the principles of visual learning design for educational videos.